Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about an amazing organization, the Salvation Army. We're going to find out more about some of its history. I'd like to welcome my guests for today's show. We have Major Dawn Worthy of the Metro Detroit area commander. She's also the Salvation Army for the Great Lakes Division. And we have Captain Donna I'm trying to get that Thammavongsa, who is a corporate officer and Salvation Army with Farmington Hills. So welcome so much to Bottom Line, and I'm really excited to learn more about Salvation Army.
Thank you for having us.
So I think, Major Dawn, we'll start with you to kind of talk about, how the Salvation Army started and how it even began, because it had a different name and started back in the 1800s, which is fascinating.
Yes. So the Salvation Army began in 1865 in London, England. Our founder, William Booth, was walking in the East End, and he saw a gentleman he saw a horse cart that had kind of fallen, and the horse had fallen a little bit. The wheel had come off the cart, and he saw how everybody ran over to help this horse cart and the horse. And as he looked over to the other side, he saw all these people who were on the side of the street who were destitute and who had been out there, and nobody was helping him. And so on that night, he made it his mission to help the destitute and the people, the marginalized people. And he especially wanted to share Jesus Christ with those in need. But he realized that in order to do that, you couldn't just feed them spiritually, but you needed to feed them physically as well. And so he started what they first called the Christian mission. And then one day his son came in, and they were talking about, and they called it the volunteer, and he crossed it off, and he said, "I'm not a volunteer," and then they decided to call it the Salvation Army. And it is so wonderful. They kind of geared it toward the military back in those days. And we still to this day wear a uniform. Both Captain Donna and I wear a tunic many of the days. And we love it that it is that, because the fact that it's an army just reminds you that, one, we're in a battle to fight sin, and we're in a battle to fight homelessness and poverty. And so we're reminded of that every day just by our name. We want to save people from the destitution that they are experiencing, but we also want to save them spiritually as well. So that is our mission. Without discrimination.
And thank you for that. And such a long history and such a wonderful history, how things changed, from being Christian mission and a volunteer army to the Salvation Army. And I think what you mentioned is probably very key, in that you want to help spiritually, but sometimes it's hard if you're hungry. And for anybody, it's hard to think, it's hard to do work, it's hard to do anything if you're hungry. So, it is kind of a full body mind type situation to try to really help those in need. Captain Donna, I was going to ask you, I believe there's a certain motto, which is sharing is caring. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, when you care about somebody, you want to do all that you can for them. So we want to share with the people in our community what we have in any way possible, because that is our way of caring for the people in our community. Because in order for our community to grow together, we have to share what we have, whether it's resources, whether it's, in terms of the church, we share the word of God. And whatever we have, we will provide. And that's what we follow with sharing is caring, because we care about people and we just want people to know that they are loved.
And I think that's one of the biggest battles right there, is having people who sincerely care, that there's somebody out there who cares about them and cares and wants to help them. And I think that really helps somebody just mentally, understand that, wow, someone really does care. I matter, to someone.
They are seen, yes.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you used to see on all of our kettle stands, you would see sharing is caring. And the Salvation Army kind of adopted a new tagline of doing the most good. And many of us Salvationists even had a hard time with it at first because it sounded so braggadocious. But if you read our manifesto, where it's saying basically, I am a hot water, or I'm a water bottle. I am a hot meal, a warm blanket. I am all these things. So I'm wanting to do the most good. And so when you read the manifesto, you really start to fall in love with that tagline a little bit more than our sharing is caring. But we love sharing is caring as well. And I don't think that will ever leave us either, as well as a heart to God, hand to man.
Oh, that's another way. Yeah, exactly. And, I think sometimes, and there's so much data, like you said, in the manifesto, sometimes it's easy for something like sharing is caring because people can relate. It's something they can think about and internalize, to try to help as we go with that. I would say, Captain Donna, can you talk about, I know there's many services, disaster recovery, there's counseling and so on. Can you maybe speak to, at this point, what is one of the biggest services that you feel is being provided by Salvation Army that maybe someone's not as familiar with?
Well, I know in many Salvation Army, we have rental assistance, utilities, and specifically to our core, our location, we do a lot of food distribution. So we do give out food every week on a regular basis, as well as we have emergency food assistance. And in our building, we also have hot meals. Every Thursday, we provide a hot lunch for people in the community who basically anyone can step through that door and have a hot meal. And we also have an after school program for the kids where they come directly to us from the school. We have a partnership with a current school, Lanigan, and they send their kids here to us and we take care of them. We provide them with homework help if they need it. We also have them do different activities. We currently have a band director from the Salvation Army in our divisional headquarters. He comes and he teaches brass instruments to our children, and we teach them Bible stories and play with them. We give them gym time and we feed them dinner every night. So that's some of the things that we do currently. On top of that, I mean, we do have, as a division, we have a camp that is in Echo Grove, and the kids love going to camp. Some kids, they love the sports camp. Some kids love the music camp. So it just depends on the ages, but we do provide camp as well.
Captain Donna, I think what you said was really important, about utilities and being able to help people with evictions and rent, because I think it's really key to have someone have a roof over their head, and something to eat, at least physically, and then being able to, it helps just to, I think, be able to accept and understand the spiritual part of that. Can we talk about, there's one thing I'd like to, and Major Dawn, maybe you can help us with this. One of the things that's been really helpful for, I think, people throughout the whole country in various ways is disaster recovery. Many times we see that and we recognize, that the trucks going out and the people going out to go and help all over, whether it's flood, tornadoes, hurricanes. Can you speak a little bit about the disaster, services and how that happens and takes place and kind of even almost logistically, how do you get everybody all over? Because Salvation is always one of the first organizations there to always step up and help.
Absolutely. And we are, my husband started the disaster program in Florida. And through the years, he has gone to Haiti, all over the country every time a disaster, because really when a disaster hits, when that flood came to Kerrville, Texas, everyone across the country came in to help. And the Salvation Army is there right at the beginning, and we are one of the last ones out. And a lot of times you don't really see the Salvation Army on the news as much. We tend to be an organization that's kind of behind the scenes all the time, just working and helping in any way that we can. But the Salvation Army, we invest quite a bit in our disaster services to help those in need, people who, in fact, I got to help with, in fact, it's what took me south. Hurricane Andrew hit. And we were actually in Detroit, and Hurricane Andrew hit, and we said that we would help for 2 months. We were kind of in between positions, and we were going to become Salvation Army officers. Hurricane Andrew hit, and we went down for 2 months, and we ended up staying 2 years. The assistance there, we were building little homes for people in Homestead, Florida. It was just an incredible experience. That was the first really big storm that had come through in a long time. And it was wonderful to be a part of it. So many volunteers that came from all over the country, even the world, to help. And the Salvation Army, I love that we are so heavily involved in disaster services, because it's really meeting, we not only meet that day-to-day need, but we meet those emergency needs as well. And I love that. We, even with our disaster and emergency services, we go out and help with cold patrol, or when it gets too hot, you'll see the canteens going out to assist. So disaster services is very much a part of the Salvation Army effort.
And I'm just curious, why we're still talking about disaster recovery, because I know there's other services I want to get to as well. But with disaster recovery, when you see that, and you and your husband have experienced it firsthand when you're trying to come down to see with Hurricane Andrew, is how are people familiar with Salvation Army, or are they kind of surprised, like, wow, this is something I didn't know that Salvation Army, provides that service?
I think the people know, the people that receive the assistance. I mean, as soon as I think there's a surprise sometimes in some of the neighborhoods, but the people who are readily receiving services, and in Homestead, that was the case. We were in an area where they saw the Salvation Army quite often. But sometimes you'll go, like when Houston was flooded, you're going to areas where they're not needing the services of the Salvation Army on a day-to-day basis. So it was unique. They realized, wow, the Salvation Army is really there to help me in all areas. So it was a wonderful ministry. Right. And it still is.
Absolutely. Captain Donna, I'm curious, another one of the services that are provided is what is considered social services. Could you explain a little bit, if someone says what's considered the social services? And I know there's counseling and things like that as well.
Yes, there are several kinds. We want to focus on Pathway of Hope. So when someone comes in, we evaluate what their needs are. We see what it is that they need help with, because sometimes it goes beyond just, I need food. There's a reason why they need food. There's other things that could prevent them from being in the cycle of poverty. So in terms of social services, we kind of want to do an assessment of what else they need, because then we help connect them to other agencies that will be able to provide them with the resources that they need. And in terms of the counseling portion, we do a spiritual component as well. I usually meet with clients who need to talk, to pray about the different issues that they face. I know the last sessions that I had was with a family, and it was to figure out how to help their family to better communicate with one another. What is it that is their struggle? And we prayed about it together, and we always debriefed at the end, said, this is what we talked about. Let's move forward. How can we improve our relationship with each other, our relationship with one another, and how can we move forward in a positive way? And what is it that is putting us in this kind of struggle? So that was the component of the social, the counseling piece. And then, of course, there's always the premarital counseling that we have. We've done a few, and just people that need to talk about their grief if there was a loss in the family. So those are the pastoral pieces that we do with counseling. In terms of providing services, it just depends on the individual and their families and what their needs are.
Well, that's amazing. It's again, social services, kind of comes back to what you're saying, what sharing is caring. When you care about someone, you want to share and you want to help. And I think it's just a natural thing that we all want to do, is help other people who need help. We sometimes it's hard to ask for help. But it feels so good to be able to help others. So that's just amazing in itself. one of the things, and I thought Major Dawn, you could help talk to us about, that I think people aren't sure that there's actually some sports programs and some music programs for the youth. Could you comment a little bit about those?
Absolutely. I love our youth programming. We really do what we can to help youth develop. We have character building programs that teach life skills, teach camping, as Captain Donna mentioned, and music. And music is not just for kids, but a lot of the kids kind of tend to participate in it more. But music helps a variety of development issues with kids, and so or development within a child. And so it's same with the arts. And so the Salvation Army provides this service to further benefit not just the child, but the family, and as well as sports. You know, in some of our areas, in fact, most of our facilities in Metro Detroit have gymnasiums and have vital programs for youth and adults in their gymnasiums. And there are many corps throughout the Metro Detroit, and a corps is one of the churches in our area. We have 13 here. And many of them have the gyms, and many of them have basketball programs. There's some large basketball programs in Wayne Westland, Farmington Hills there with Captain Donna. She has pickleball, and she can probably speak into that a little bit more. But very unique to the area and what the people are asking for. So it's such a great opportunity, but both youth and adults can participate in that. I know in Pontiac, we have some senior citizen programming within the gym, some exercise and things like that. So it's a really a variety of sports and music. I was in a corps yesterday, and we're known for our brass bands, but they were teaching kids how to play the violin and string instruments. So even things that are kind of outside of our normal wheelhouse, we just try to help in any way that we can.
Right. And, you know, like you said, it's amazing because there's so many times that, you know, like, I know I've seen, you know, like you said, the Salvation Army band, you see it in a parade or highlighted or things like that. For the music program and the sports program, whether it's for young people or adults and things like that, how do people find out about this? Is this something they learn about, you know, if it's the youth in the schools? Is it just seen on the website? Is there a way that people are hearing about these programs or how to sign up for them?
That's a great question. And something that I'm working on is to put on our sametrodetroit.org website is to let people throughout the Metro Detroit know where they could go for the different programs and services. We're not there yet, but if they want to go to their local Salvation Army, they could go in and ask what kind of program they provide, because each one is different, which is so wonderful about the Salvation Army because they're looking at the need. And that's something that I love about our founder, was that he would look, where is a need and where can the Salvation Army help? And so that's something that the Salvation Army is always looking in every community. Okay, this is a need that is specifically just for this community, but we're going to provide that here. And so they would just go to their local Salvation Army to see what is offered at that corps.
Right. And now the one thing when we're talking services, I know we've talked about some music, we've talked about arts, you know, and sports and that, but I think there's also some veteran services that Salvation Army has, correct? And maybe also some prison services. Could you speak to those a little bit?
Yes, I'm still kind of new coming back to Metro Detroit, but we definitely have prison services. We go to visit the prisons. We have a men's club team who goes to the prison ministries, quite often goes into the prisons and provides ministries there. We have veteran services in several of our corps. I don't believe that all of our corps provide the veteran services, but obviously we never turn away a veteran. But we do have specific services for programs in some of our areas that are a little bit more heavily geared toward our veterans.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And so now one of the things that maybe people know about Salvation Army, maybe not, maybe they're not sure how it started, but can we talk about the Red Kettle? I think that's so, you see that, and it just, for me, it just warms my heart, when I'm walking into a store, and those folks, a lot of those folks, they're just volunteering time. Could you speak to that a little bit? How did the Red Kettle, come about?
Well, I hope I have this date correct, but I think it was around do you remember the year, Donna? It was, I want to say,
It was 1891 when I did my research. By
In
Captain
California, right?
Yes.
yes. So I've been so focused on Metro Detroit stuff lately. But yes, and so had the idea of getting out there and just putting a kettle out in San Francisco to raise money. And that has just developed into our kettles today. And the kettle, people don't realize that when you give to a Red Kettle, that is helping to sustain the programs and services all throughout the year. So, we just did the radiothon. Well, that was specifically for our bed and bread program. Well, the Red Kettle raises funds for programs and services all throughout the area. All that money stays within these three counties here in the Metro Detroit area, and it provides the services, the finances for the services that we provide to the community. So it is a vital program to the Salvation Army. We've been working to try to make online giving more available, because having that online Red Kettle, but people, because people don't carry cash anymore. So what I always do is I encourage people to take money out of the bank at the beginning of, November, so that when they see that kettle, they can give as they walk by, because it's kind of just a traditional thing. It's a fun thing. And I think people like to actually give and put money in that kettle. So, but Donna is one of the officers that works very hard at kettles, and they did a great job for their kettles all throughout the year, or during this last season.
Yeah. And that's interesting you say that. So, Captain Donna, can you kind of comment? How do you guys prepare for this? I mean, logistically, and because they're everywhere, every day, and the people it's staffed, and I have to say, I do. When I hear the ringing of the bell, when I see that there, it just warms my heart, because I know, like you say, all these great things it's helping. But how do you set that up?
Well, it's months of preparation. It's planning. It's a lot of planning, prepping, looking ahead, making connections with our volunteers, our schools. Our volunteers were instrumental in helping us this year, especially schools, when they have their children go out and do volunteer hours, so that they can do their service hours for National Honor Society, or organizations needing hours because they need to do social, community service hours. So those were very helpful to us. I would say that the majority of our income from kettles come from our volunteers, which is essential, because yes, we do have some paid employees, but they're not as reliable. And we don't have very many is the problem. When you're standing out there for 8 hours a day, it does get very cold. Whereas if it's a volunteer, they're doing 3-4 hours and they take shifts. So it's doable. But when you're out there for 5 days straight, 6 days straight, it can get a bit much for our paid ringers. And I know this from experience, because I go out there and I would do 6 to 8 hour shifts at a time. And it's a lot of, okay, don't forget, when you go out, you need to have this, you need to wear this, you need to wear layers. We never know what the weather looks like. And most of the time it's cold, and colder.
In the Midwest, in Michigan.
Yes, but when you go out there, though, when you know what you're doing it for, that's what gets people going. And people said, how can you be out here for 6 to 8 hours? Well, it's because, one, I'm greeting people, talking to people, building connections. I'm most of the time I'm caroling as well, which is a lady said to me, that's a dying art. No one carols anymore. So it's the mentality of, why am I doing this? Because I'm doing this for the community and bringing it back to the community. And that's what gets me going when I'm at the kettle stands.
Right.
And if I could piggyback on what she said, sorry, but with the kettles, she said how vital the volunteers were. And that is definitely something that we want to work on every year, because yes, we have a little bit of a ministry with our paid workers, but we also need volunteers. And so what we're looking for are companies or churches or schools that will take the kettle for the whole day, and then they divide it up between their employees or their church members or their Sunday school classes. And that way it helps where we don't have to keep changing out the kettle, and it provides us that full continuity for the whole day. Because you're right, it is a lot easier to just ring for a couple of hours. And I tell you, I rang on the coldest day of the year, and I did a 4-hour shift, and I was thinking, why did I do this? You
Yeah.
know? So, and I had to keep reminding myself, this is for the people.
Yeah. And I think that's so important that you said, the volunteers part of it. I think also, donations, I don't want to lose sight of that, because I know people can do wills and trusts and cars and airline miles and so on. Can we also talk a little bit? I know people are probably very familiar with the Salvation Army stores. And there's donations that people maybe have, taken, or even, a Salvation Army, I believe, will come to your house and pick up goods and services. Is there certain things that you'd like them to donate?
I mean, they do really well on clothing, but obviously furniture is always wonderful. And Capt and Donna, you may want to speak into this as well. But any of their items that are in, a lot of times people think, well, I'm just going to get rid of it, and it will be for somebody who will just take it. But you want to make sure that it's at least in good condition, because the Salvation Army doesn't have a lot of opportunity to fix items where they have this whole repostering. Some areas do, but I don't know yet if we have it here. But there are stores all throughout Metro Detroit, and it is a great opportunity still to give back, because we have a whole adult rehabilitation center that benefits from our thrift stores. And those are people, women and men, who are struggling with addiction, and that everything that you buy at a thrift store goes to help that program. So it's a very, very great thing. So when you buy something at a thrift store, you're getting a great deal, but you're also impacting a life.
Right.
Yeah, people just have to remember, if it's something that can't be used, it shouldn't be donated, because, again, they don't have the capability to fix everything. Like torn clothing, that doesn't really sell well, does it? So think of that, like, would you wear it if this was given to you, is the mentality that I would think of before I donate.
Right.
Because I know we're not a thrift store at our location, but people always send things to our location. And I would kindly say, these are the closest locations to us. But sometimes people would donate bedding. Like a bed. I know most thrift stores can't handle the beds because maybe bed bug potentials and things like that. So just be mindful of what it is that you're donating, because sometimes it is hard for us to take care of it.
Right. And that's why, sometimes you've always seen it always said like gently used, or, and like you said, furniture, if you've got a broken leg on a chair, or if can't be, unless they can fix it before they donate it, it's awfully hard, because then you just can't take on all that furniture and try to fix it and take care of it and reupholster it and that. So, so Major Dawn and Captain Donna, I want to say thank you both for being on the show. I'd like to ask you if you have one last word of, wisdom or a message you'd like to leave with that. Maybe Major Dawn, I'd ask you first, that you want to leave with our viewers.
I just want to say thank you to this great community. This community, we just finished up our radiothon, and this community, I saw it again at Christmas time with the Red Kettles. You are a very giving community. You care about the people in need. And the Salvation Army is a trusted organization. You know that your money is staying here and that it will go to good use. So we thank you for your support. We thank you for asking the questions, because you're right. The Salvation Army is not well known for all of the stuff that we do. Mm-hmm. They know the kettles, they may know the thrift stores. In fact, we have a billboard campaign coming up that's addressing just that. So you'll start to see some billboards explaining what the Salvation Army does.
Excellent.
So thank you.
And Captain Donna, a quick message for us.
I just want to say thank you for supporting us in everything, because without your support, we can't help support others. And we're just very grateful and thankful for that, because that is a privilege that you have given us to be able to help those in our community that needs our help. And thank you for that.
And again, thank you both for what you're doing and your passion and everything, and your, what you've done for Salvation Army and what you're doing for our community. So I thank you for that. I thank our audience for watching. I hope you found a lot of great information about what all the great things Salvation Army does. I hope you have a great day. I'm Cindy Kainz.